quick report from the hillside garden. It's third week of August now, at least now our 8th week with no rain, and I mean no rain at all, apart from a brief shower of it lasted like a few minutes and did nothing. So this is a drought. There's no other way to describe this. And as I keep saying, we've not had that much rain really over the last year. I mean, not as much as you would want in in the rainy season, in winter and spring and stuff. I just want to show you the results. New pear tree, almost given up. There's a little bit of growth. Maybe it'll recover. Maybe the buds are alive and it will recover next year. There were pumpkins growing here. Given up on them. I mean, I've tried to water them, but it just doesn't seem to make any difference in this scorching sun. Seaberry clinging to life. I think it will bounce back next year. Seaberry not clinging to life, but it still might bounce back. But in a terrible state. They do tend to regrow. But what else? That's the annual garden. Yeah, I'm not even going to talk about that. You see raspberries in the background, brown and dead. Let's see what else we can see. Yeah, there's a little hazel thing. I don't know. Yeah, it's just about clinging to life, but hazel tree. Grapes are okay. Grapes are perennials that can find water most of the time. There's one thing this hot weather is good for, and dry weather is for drying. Figs, and figs are about the only thing. There's not many in here right now. I've got another batch to go in. We've had hundreds of figs. Oh, there's a moth inside the netting. No matter what you do, somehow the insect gets inside. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty disastrous. This little persimmon tree, trying to water it, probably didn't water it enough. I think it's cooked. I think it's done. You know, it survived 2 years. It survived the winter, and I'm back to square one with persimmon again. I still don't have a persimmon tree, like 3 years after, you know, realizing I wanted to plant them. What else? Yeah, fig is okay. Fig is doing okay. This is one that I air layered a few years ago and planted here, and it's produced its first crop. They're quite small. But so I'm just going to keep putting fig in because figs grow. I don't know what I'm going to do with all the figs, but you just got to grow what will grow, right? They're my gooseberries. Gooseberries were always very drought tolerant. Gooseberry dead. Seaberry barely clinging to life. Honeyberry, forget it. Forget it. It might come up out of the ground again next year, but you can't grow honeyberries in this. No chance. In here I planted black currants all over the place, all dead. I mean, you know, there's just been no water in here at all. Zero rain. Can you imagine a new plant with zero rain trying to survive? This is pawpaw. I am watering these, I'm trying to, but they're still just absolutely getting hosed. They may come back next year, but they're not growing. I mean, they've grown like zero. They haven't grown this year at all. This one looks almost dead. I mean, I'm going to put some more water on there. But okay, so I'm painting a pretty bleak picture, and it is a bleak picture. You know, I have to resign myself. We're living in basically something like a desert climate now, except it's a temperate desert because we still have frosts. So I can't go planting, you know, the desert stuff that's going to die when the first frost comes. But, you know, with the winters being so mild, you know, really just the occasional frost, you know, I think it's time to start thinking about more Mediterranean stuff and more, you know, and forgetting about these typical permaculture plants that are grown in temperate climates. There's just, you know, there's nothing you can do. You can't grow that stuff. There's pistachio. They are also quite drought tolerant, so you know it's taking its time growing, but you know maybe that's something to think about. So that's one thing. We're gonna have to really rethink what species we're planting. Also, if I'm going to plant a temperate perennial, that can take a bit of drought. It's going to still need babying in its first few years. It's going to need to get established, which means here I'm going to have to water. I don't like it. It doesn't seem sustainable to me. And the other problem is we don't have any water. But if I want to plant, there's no point, you know, planting a new persimmon or peach or whatever if I'm not going to commit to watering it. And so that might involve coming around with a bucket every day or whatever. But you know, I'm going to have to start at least in the first few years before I get things established. So you know, you can talk about mulching and swales and yeah, you know, all these things, or planting in like guilds to help protect the soil and all this. But at the end of the day, a tree that needs water is just not going to survive in a 2-month drought. So so that's one thing, you know, I have to resign myself to. The other thing is I'm seriously now considering drilling a well. It's another thing I'm not really a fan of, because again, I don't think it's sustainable, you know, like digging water up out of the soil, you know, out of the ground deep down and chucking it on top of the soil, and it, you know, that depletes the groundwater. It's not an infinite resource. But I'm starting to think, at least for getting things established, I need a maybe not unlimited, but at least a free source of water to help us along. So I'm thinking about drilling a well, and I'm thinking about doing it myself, which is pure insanity. So please give me a sanity check if you're watching this. I'm just going to tell you roughly what I'm thinking, and you can just tell me it's a ridiculous idea and not to even bother. So there is water down there. The really productive wells are just up the hill. There's a few people have dug. They're at enormous cost. I mean, we're talking 20,000 euros. I haven't got 20,000 euros, especially not for a well. And the water, they found water up to, well, the first water they found about 100 meters down. So I'm not going 100 meters down by any known manual method, I don't think. But so basically the water starts at 100 meters, the first sort of water bearing sand that gives a good you know, good replenishment rate. But then they've gone further, they've gone a further 50 meters and encountered several more layers, and they've put filters at each of those layers, so they got good productivity. I'm not going to be doing that by hand, obviously. Now a neighbor drilled further down here, got to 30 meters down. He dug, it was a dug well. They got 30 meters down and it started collapsing on them, and they couldn't get any further, and they never got to water. So 30 meters isn't enough. So I need to use a manual method that can get me over 30 meters, maybe 40, 50, into, well, it's all clay. It's clay all the way down. It's clay pretty much 100 meters down, or maybe let's knock off the 10 meters up to there, so maybe 90 meters. And clay, as you know, is terrible for you know, for getting water out of. I mean, there will be water in there and it will replenish slowly, so you need to go as far into it as you can. And but you're not going to get a gusher. You're not going to get like you know, 100 liters a minute. You're going to get, you know, 100 liters a day maybe, depending on how far down you go into the clay. And my thinking is to do it here, maybe somewhere where I can dig, or I can make it fairly inconspicuous, because I don't really want people knowing I've got a well. I don't know, it's just, I'm not a prepper or anything, but you know, if you've got your own secure water source, you don't really want people knowing about it. And what I'm going to do is do like a percussion cable method, where you get a pipe and basically you whack it up and down on the ground. The pipe has a flap on the bottom which allows the silt and stuff in, but doesn't drop it out again. You lower it down, bang, 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 and you just keep going and going and going and hauling up the waste, the spoil, and chucking it out, and just see how far you get. And because I happen to know there's no rocks here, I've seen a geological report from one of the wells up top, and I would just keep keep banging this baler, as they call it, down and just see how far I can get with a manual method like that. Incredibly laborious and slow, and it'll probably be a one-man job mostly. And I've got no water supply here really to do anything like using water to drill, you know, so I can't do that. So I'm just going to do a super slow method and just see if we get into any sort of water down there that I can use for, at least for watering. And then, you know, that kind of depth, you can get a long way down with that kind of method. Yeah, you have to case the well at some point, probably, especially if we ever got into like proper water. It might start collapsing. I mean, I don't think this clay will collapse. I think I can get a long way down without any casing. And then I can put the casing down if we see we're getting into something worthwhile. So, yeah, that's the plan. Make a drill a well by myself. You know, I can't pay. You know, I'm one of these people who will just go, yeah, I can do that. I could drill a well, you know, and I'll just start doing it, and I just won't give up till I've done it. I don't think I'm going to be drilling 100 meters down, but I mean, I'm game to try. You know, it's been done. I mean, you know, people in ancient times used to use that method to get down, you know, considerable depth. So you know, maybe I manage it. So I'm going to keep you updated on that. But you know, I would like a reality check. Like, don't try and drill your own well. It's crazy, you know, something like that. So okay, that's it. Terrible drought. We're living in a desert. I'll have to face facts, and I have to get water, at least some water from somewhere. So let's see what happens. I'll keep you posted.